What's up? You're checking out 1019 Online.
Yo, what up? It's me, Johnny Starks, a.k.a. Koolout, host of Koolout Radio, right here on 101.9 KISS FM from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Here's what you missed.
Dr. Derek Greenfield, the decision came down in Ferguson. What are your thoughts on what we are seeing and how people are reacting?
Well, first of all, obviously we did not get the indictment that many of us have been hoping for, but this is still an indictment on a system that continues to devalue the lives and bodies of black and brown men. I wrote a piece recently for Spoken Word called Hunting Season about being in Mississippi and all the rules and regulations for hunting, and yet where are the protections for black young men? And so, despite the fact that we are disappointed that the businesses are being burned and that the kind of upheaval that we've seen, Dr. King reminded us that a riot is the language of the unheard. So many folks are hoping to get their voices heard. But let's also put into perspective that the only person dead during this entire time in Ferguson is Mike Brown. Mm-hmm. And we cannot lose sight and forget that. And we need to build a movement, not just a moment. I think at these times, it's so easy for us to get sparked up. And we know how quickly that spark can either burn up or burn out. And we need some long-term work. We need some healing. We need some real conversations to take place. People of different backgrounds to share their experiences. So let's not just sort of get caught up in the fires that we see on TV, but also let's get that fire in our belly burning to have real conversations to hopefully move this thing forward.
Come kicking and cool out.
101.9, 101 Live. Yo, what up? It's me, Johnny Starks, a.k.a. Koolout.
Here's what you missed.
Dr. Derek Greenfield, you know the story of Emmett Till, Medgar Evers. Are we seeing those same type of situations with Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown?
There's certainly each generation has its experiences and those seminal kinds of moments that challenge people to look at themselves. I'm hopeful that what we can do is to turn this into a continued conversation, continued movement for change, that people will really look at the fact that it may not be Jim Crow now, James Crow Esquire, in terms of some of the racism, but now finally people are realizing that actually some of the stuff that happened 50 years ago is still alive. And so these conversations, especially for those people who are in positions of power and privilege, to look at themselves and say, let's be honest, if this were my child, would he have been dead? I mean, we have people running up into the White House and they're still alive. And yet continually, whether it's Trayvon, whether it's Eric Garner, whether it's these situations that keep happening where young men are experiencing death simply for walking while black.
Come kicking and cool out.
101.9, 101 Live. Yo, what up? It's me, Johnny Starks, a.k.a. Koolout, host of Koolout Radio, right here on 101.9 KISS FM from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m.
Here's what you missed.
Dr. Derek Greenfield, let me give you this statement and tell me whether you agree or disagree. The new racism is the denial of racism.
That's certainly part of it. Absolutely. And for those who can afford to do so, absolutely. That becomes part of the problem. You're complicit in the system that says we don't have to deal with that. We can ignore the realities other people are facing. And so that's part of it. It's not the only statement, but I completely agree. I saw recently an example that somebody used in their classroom. They had their students get in rows and put them in front of a garbage can and gave everybody a crumpled up piece of paper and said, well, throw it in the basket, see if you can make it. Well, those in the front row, of course, had a much easier time than those in the back row. And they talked about privilege and opportunity. But it was interesting. Those in the back row were saying, wait a minute, it's not fair. And nobody in the front row even acknowledged that they were getting a better opportunity. They were just happy that they could make that basket. So for those who are in privileged situations, it's time to turn your head and look at the blind spot when you're driving and check out the fact that you are experiencing privilege. And that happens in terms of gender, in terms of race, class, sexuality. All of us are in many ways complicit in either privilege or being oppressed. And it's time for the honest conversations to realize not everybody gets the same opportunities. No guilt and shame, just a chance for real dialogue and change.
Come kicking and cool out.
101.9, 101.9 KISS FM.